There's that notice. Well, I'll be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for attending today. I hope that what I have to say, when I attend one of these things, if I get one or two items that I can kind of take away, it really, to me, it's worth the time, and I hope you'll find it worth your time. I've been using Blackboard and helping folks put their courses online since 2000, and of course back then it was more of a hybrid, purely a hybrid usage, not even really hybrid, just we're facilitating what we're doing in face-to-face courses, and we've come a long way since then. And so many of the things that I'm going to share with you today, I think, are probably common sense, or you may know them, but I hope there'll be some things that that will give you pause to think, and also share your experience and perspectives. And let's make this a dialogue. Feel free to stop me or type in the chat. I'll try my best to monitor it. I'm going to have a couple of screens going on. In fact, Sharon, if you see something in the chat, just chime up if you don't mind, or any of you can. It would be great. So the idea is, when I think about engagement, and I heard this on one of the NPR sort of stories, like the news mag, I don't know what we call them nowadays, but these story shows that talked about how engagement is something that we as instructors need to start. We're trying to occupy, attract, or involve our students in what is going on in the course. One way of looking at that from the Bottcher book, there's a Bottcher online teaching survival guide, which is sort of one of the big books people really recommend, suggests that first we need to connect, not only in terms of making those introductions to students so that they can really get to know us, but also connect them to their own interests, prior knowledge, and their own goals and aspirations. Not every course that we offer that they take is going to feed directly into that, but the more connections we can make, the more possibilities I think students can see. And we are all so passionate about our own disciplines. I know I am mine, and I just think that as much as you can give sort of a natural enthusiasm to help make those connections for students, I just think you're going to engage them in a natural way. Next is communicate, to regularly in a timely manner, accurately, and with warmth communicate all that's going on in terms of the course. And there are several technology tools we can use to help that, but just the act of being communicative and open can help engage. Collaborate or work jointly to create or reach a goal, or reach the objectives of the course. And then in some courses, I don't pretend that this works in every course, is bring the students into the process of delivering aspects of the course, even if only for themselves. Make them co-participants, co-facilitators in their own learning relative to what you've got going on. So that's one of the dispositions that I'm bringing. And none of what I'm going to tell you has anything to do with some of the many challenges and problems. Like, people are talking about burnout, and I believe that's a very real thing. And the pandemic has really changed a lot of attitudes. I know I'm just more tired. I feel more stressed out. I have my own set of personal problems that I think kind of got exacerbated with the pandemic. Very little of what I'm going to tell you today is going to deal with that, except I would say that the more we can use these tools to be efficient. If you have a large section that you're teaching with eCampus, you have facilitators, depending on the number of students in your course. Really relying on them and using a full facilitator model can help with a lot of that load. But we operate from a framework that we really believe is strong in this online teaching space, and that's called the community of inquiry model. And there's a website at the end that really explains this framework. It's Randy Garrison's work and some others. And it really describes that there are for the optimal student experience, we should have a rich cognitive presence, teaching presence, and social presence. And there's a lot to unpack in that. But the more students engage with the content in natural ways and efficient ways, the more that a teaching presence is in the course, where the students really connect with that instructor, and the more social presence they have with their colleagues or fellow classmates, the more rich that experience will be, and the more they'll learn, and the more they'll be engaged. And if you want to learn more about that, I'm glad to talk about that. That's a session at least unto itself. So this is the list of things I'm going to just briefly cover. Please make make this session your own. Ask questions, give your own perspectives. If you think something that I talk about is not the best, there's a better way to do it. Please speak up. Glad to hear from you. But really involves setting the tone, being a door opener, looking for evidence that engagement is happening. Demonstrate a daily presence in your course, and this doesn't have to mean all day. It can mean, some days it can mean just a few minutes. Some days it will mean more. Conduct formative assessments and then take action on what you find out. Write out a timeline and approach and communicate that to your students. Solicit regular student feedback. The feedback that you give in terms of the instruction, in terms of their assessments, make it timely and interactive and informative. Create original, meaningful discussion board questions. This is a big area of concern and a question that lots of faculty have, how to do that. Virtual office hours or optional meetings and online. Sometimes I try to really suggest that they be more than optional. Nudge students who you think need it. Send a personalized check-in 1 to 2 times per term. Meaningful content and interaction experiences. And then celebrate successes. So let's talk more about it, or somebody can pipe up. So first of all, setting the tone, that first day to 2 days, especially in these 8-week courses that we, 8-week terms that we offer that are so accelerated, we really need to set the tone early, and we need to do some things. First of all, you need to consider your audience. My message to graduate students that I have is going to be much different and have a completely different nuance than undergraduates or even in an introductory course. Your first words should be inviting, warm, and caring. And I think that extends to the syllabus. I see a lot of information in syllabus that seems pretty, and I know that we have to be strict on certain things. And I know that it's a legal contract, but sometimes I feel like a lot of what's communicated can be aversive. That said, we still need to include, this article calls the uglies. What are the non-negotiables? For example, in my graduate courses, I have to turn grades in on a certain date, and I'm not inclined to give an incomplete just for no real substantive reason. And so that's kind of a deal breaker in my course. And I'm matter of fact about it, but I'm not, I don't overdraw the point. So, but we need to talk about the things that are non-negotiable, talk about the things that are ugly, if you will. Welcome and encourage your student suggestions and involvement. And I think most people intend that, but a lot of times in online, it doesn't come across unless we are pretty explicit about it. Address why a course is important beyond the grade, beyond the degree requirement. Our fields are vital and contribute to society in various and very important ways. And when we can begin to express why those ways are and get students to understand that perspective, then it will usually yield in more engagement in a course. Offer tips on how to do well in the course. And I'll talk about that when I talk about a game plan or a timeline. Choose your words carefully. Again, that first communication, whether it's email or whether you use some sort of asynchronous video to communicate with them, that's very important. And a lot of times students will judge us based on that initial interaction. Let students know you're available and that you want them to succeed in the course, and always end on a positive, upbeat note whenever possible. Questions about that? I read a really influential article that I promptly forgot where to find, but I believe it. Students want us to be mentors and guides to their goals and aspirations more than anything else. Even if we're in a gen ed course where the student is not necessarily automatically interested in every facet of that information, they still want people who've had success in life to mentor them and help them get where they'd like to go. So be that mentor and guide if you at all feel comfortable, if it is at all possible. You have connections to opportunities that you may not realize, and your students certainly don't realize. Try to be available to point them in various ways when you feel like it's necessary, or especially if they ask. And gen ed instructors, I would suggest that you're an ambassador to your department and to your various majors. And so if I'm ever teaching a gen ed course or even a orientation course, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do and what my field represents. And I just think that them getting to know you on that professional level it can be very helpful and powerful. Look for evidence that engagement is working. And this is something from the Bocher book. I don't know how to, it's German. I wish they'd either give me an umlaut or just the letter. But Bocher suggests 3 different types of engagement: cognitive engagement, which is, do you see evidence that students are being curious? Do they want to understand? Is there some sort of intellectual or psychological investment in their learning? Do they use strategies that lead to deep learning? Can you see that in the discussion boards? Can you see that in the questions that they ask? There's behavior. Well, that's more, asking is more behavioral. Are they asking or answering questions? Are they, quote, going to class? So in Blackboard, we can see evidence of when they last logged in, and there's a bit better evidence in the new Blackboard Ultra. I can talk more about that if somebody's interested. Are they paying attention, as it were? Are they making it through the course content? And we have technology, increasingly more technology that can help us get at that to some extent. There's effective engagement. Do you believe students care about the learning? Are they interested? That they show enthusiasm or excitement about what they're doing? And sometimes in an online course that's hard to get at if we're just doing discussion boards. I like more and more to do either asynchronous video or have a series of optional meetings where we really try to get them in those meetings to kind of see some of that. Are they willing to participate in the learning process beyond just what's given inside that course framework? We should demonstrate our daily presence. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean 3 hours a day every day, but we should be doing things that let students know that we are in that course and we know what's going on, whether that's announcements, blog posting. Sometimes faculty like to post a blog about what's going on in their courses. Grading, discussion participation, or individual check-ins. There are a lot of ideas that I'm going to give here. There were ideas in that list that can serve as ways we can demonstrate that daily course presence. Formative assessments, create them and take action. I like to have multiple choice, matching, and fill in the blank questions for my readings. They're worth no points. Students can take them as much as they want, but what it tells me is, are they doing the readings? How many times are they taking these assessments? I had in one course a student take one 10 or 15 times, and even though they're not for any points, she could have just stopped, but she kept taking those, and I found that really interesting. And at the very least, she was engaged with the questions enough to want to figure out what the answers were. So I found that's interesting. But if you do formative assessments in a straightforward way, you can do them reliably. You can use that to take action on where the gaps in learning may be. And there's an article that I've got at the end from Edutopia, which is kind of written for K-12, but I think it applies. It may be of interest to you all. I really like the concept of using timelines in courses. And in eCampus, we sort of really suggest that you give what we call a course outline, which is sort of when everything's due, what chapter we are on in terms of the week, what all the readings are. But you can take this a step forward and sort of share with students how you're preparing for the course and how you think they might benefit from doing things in a certain order relative to the time that we have in the term. You all are really the experts in what it takes to be successful relative to your discipline. I mean, you are the pinnacle of that in many ways. And so, what's a good approach if you were learning things again, if you were advising I see a lot of these meme videos of somebody interviewing an older person on the street, asking them, what would they tell their 20-year-old self? What would you tell your 20-year-old self about how to get prepared? And it doesn't have to be, I would write everything down, but this doesn't have to be a treatise. It could be a simple outline 1 through 7 or something, and then communicate that to them. That could go in a message or an announcement, or it could go as part of the course content for that particular unit or that week. So I'm a big believer in trying to use timelines to kind of show, where should you be? Like we're doing a project that's due in week 4. Well, this is week 1. You better figure out what your project's going to be, and then kind of step them through that process. It's also something you can pull up if they have specific questions. You can reference it. Solicit regular student feedback. So now I'm going to show you how I use Qualtrics. I'm definitely not a Qualtrics expert, but in every weekly module in my online courses, I have a 3-question survey where I ask students what's going on, how are things. So I'm going to go into Qualtrics, and I have some of them linked well. If you want to know how to access Qualtrics, let me know. That's a different topic for a different day. But under my projects and programs, I have my 812 course, and just every unit I made one survey, 3-question survey, and I just copied that 8 times. And then I have the ability to embed that quiz that survey inside of a weekly module folder inside my course. So this is what it looks like. When it's embedded, it looks just like this. It's just smaller. They don't have to see a big window. It's just a slider. How mentally demanding was this unit? How satisfied are you with it? What went well? What could have gone better? Now, I won't say that I have an ultra high response rate for these, probably 50% or so, but I tried, and I do get good information about it. I got resounding information. I believe it was a week 3 or week 4 that they said, Chris, you have too many discussion boards. You're asking us to do these 2 huge projects. You've got 6 discussion boards. Can we knock off a discussion board? This is a graduate level course. I felt like they were getting the readings well, and they understood the content. So I just canceled the discussion board. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know, but it felt like the right thing. I know morale improved. I got many comments about that, even from people who didn't give me direct feedback. So, sometimes we can steer the ship before the course is over, and now we're just looking at the post-course evaluations. And, that's a spot. I'd rather be in the spot where we can steer the ship a lot of times if I can. So that's one way. You can also use Blackboard surveys. I just don't like that as well. I can't do as much nerdy stuff with it if I should want to. I really love the late Grants Wiggins' work on what he called instructional feedback. There's a great, easy to read article that talks about feedback really as good positive information about where a student is relative to their performance or understanding in the course and where they ought to be. And he gives 8 tips for that. And the article that I've got kind of goes into it more. Good feedback, instructional feedback should be goal referenced. Students should know what the goal is, at least, and hopefully agree to that goal, or it's a goal that you both come up with together. The feedback should be tangible and transparent. They should be able to take action based on the feedback that you've given. It should be user-friendly. Start with positive comments first. Talk about things in ways they can understand. It should be timely, ongoing, consistent, and progress toward a goal. And it's a great article. It's at the links at the end of the presentation. In fact, I should probably share that with you all. Let me do that before I go on. Goes to everyone. That document, there's that link you can share. Questions about instructional feedback? I have 2 articles attached to this slide about getting them talking in discussion boards that promote divergent thinking, don't have one correct answer, encourage analysis, allow them to create personal connections, and are not many research papers. In 2023, we still have courses that where instructors are essentially asking for small term papers in terms of discussion board posts. It kills morale, it kills enthusiasm, and it will result in the antithesis of engagement. You will get that product, and that's what you'll get. When we can ask open-ended questions, what are your thoughts about something? Compare and contrast these 2 items, and what are your personal feelings about that? how are other things you've learned in other courses related to what you're learning now? The two links that I've shared, one's from Central Michigan and one's from Oregon State, I think. They will give you prompts for good discussion board posts, and I'm glad to look at anybody's posts and try to make some suggestions. But we got to do these things in our discussion boards. And some people believe that text is dead. But if we look at sites like Reddit, if we look at sites like, heck, even Cruise Critic, I mean, people are very, very invested in typing a whole lot about their opinions, about information that they find in very natural ways. Text is very much not dead. It's just that if we're asking for, papers, or we're asking for, if we're asking questions with just a couple of correct answers, we're not utilizing that medium to its fullest potential. And I do admit that Blackboard Original discussion boards, that tool is not as awesome as it could be. And that's certainly part of the issue. I host a number of optional sessions in my graduate courses. I try to do at least 3 to 4. And of course, although they're optional and there are many people who don't attend, I probably get half of my course that shows up. And sometimes we'll talk about reading. Sometimes we'll talk about problems that they're having or challenges that they're facing in getting their projects done. All of our courses culminate in some projects that are suitable for inclusion in a portfolio. And sometimes we'll just talk about other things that are related to instructional design or not. But it's a time that I really cherish, and I really get to know the people that show up very well. And I realize that that's extra time. That's time in the evening with adult learners typically. And it's a challenge not everybody can, something not everybody can do. But at the very least, have those virtual office hours and show up on Zoom for them. You'll be surprised who will show up. And I'm going to show Microsoft Teams here in just a minute, which I think is really, it's not revolutionary now, but I think it's a really great tool that many will benefit from. Some people hate it. Nudge students who need it. So in Blackboard, we know when things are going well in terms of these various gradable items, whether it's a quiz, whether it's assignment. We can also know when they check into courses. It's very appropriate to send a quick message to a student who may need it. And let me show you another little trick. As I talk about checking in, personalized check-in messages 1 or 2 times a term, which I think is something that is good. We can create, can you all see Outlook? Nobody's on screen, but somebody just say yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. Thank you very much. So if you look at quick steps here, like a lot of people say, oh God, I have to send a brand new email and type out a whole email per, every student. And I know that if you have 60, 70 students, that's something facilitators need to help with in my view. But these quick steps can be messages. So for example, I helped a business faculty with I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I think maybe they were he was having his students use Google Slides to create this project, and they would ask me for access outside of Outlook. So they would have their personal email accounts, and so I just set up this quick step. And so I can select an email here, click this quick step, and then it will generate an email. Here's the email. It generates an email I've already written. And so it's a form letter ostensibly, but I can modify that slightly to give that nudge or to check in with the student. So I could make a little boilerplate here and quickly use that as a check-in. Now we could send a mass form email to all the students in the course. I can show you how to do that if that's something that you want to do. But I think, taking an extra 20 or 30 seconds and maybe having a quick step that you can fill out where you need to can be helpful. So that's something I do. But I like the personalized check-in messages 1 or 2 times per term. I just think it's a good way to sort of nudge students, even those who don't need it. The Bottcher book also talks about content, interaction, and social experiences inside the course. think about and this sort of is a parallel to the community of inquiry. How are we going to give students a good content experience? How are we going to allow them to interact in terms of our course and the content therein? And usually that's through discourse of some kind. What kinds of social experiences are they going to have? What's the intent here? To affirm or reaffirm core concepts, fundamental and powerful concepts of the course, to show how the field goes way beyond the course. I mean, for me, that's the sticking point when a lot of this stuff sticks, is getting students to realize the utility and the vitality of your field beyond just this course, and the enthusiasm that you have for that and how it contributes to society. That's an opinion. So the more we can do that, the better. And then how are we going to foster collegiality? You know, one thing I like to do is I like to tell students what I'm doing, show students what I'm doing outside the course in terms of the journals I read, the organizations that I'm part of professionally, and other persistent sources of information that I turn to, further educate myself. I mean, we can't keep staying in college credit courses our whole lives, although I've certainly tried. We can utilize interactive learning objects. So with the help of an instructional designer or on your own, we can create or utilize others' learning objects. And these can be interactive. This is educational software. It's using programs like Articulate Storyline to create something that they can interact with, a resource that they can use beyond the course sometimes even. So that's one way. And when I create those, and I can show you some examples if you want, it just helps kind of further get them thinking about what the content's about and how to interact with that. I love guest speakers when we can hook them up. We've hooked an international speaker up for my program. We're going to invite all of EKU. I can't believe that I got this guy, but he's promoting a book, and so he's willing to speak to us for free. So that's great. I like using MS Teams, and I want to show MS Teams here in just a second. I love synchronous meetings when we can pull them off. We can't always ask our adult learners, especially, to attend those, but nonetheless, I think they can be powerful. And then, like, as we end the course, let's figure out where they're going. Like, ask the students what's next for them. Is it another course in your department? Are they finishing up school and they're going on to look for a job? Figure out how you can facilitate, their own goals and aspirations. So let me show MS Teams real quick. Is there anybody that has never worked with Microsoft Teams? It doesn't matter. You can say yes or no, or you can say nothing. What I love about MS Teams is that, I get to choose how I interact with it. A lot of people think that that's a chore. I just tell students that some days I'm going to be really responsive, and other days it may take me the same amount of time as an email. And, you should use that and communicate amongst yourselves and know that I'll join in whenever I have time. What I like, I'm going to quit the presentation here, and I'm going to go into courses and just show you a minute. I'm going to go into an Ultra course. We can have IT do the same thing for us, but in the lower left corner of the screen, so I'm in Microsoft Ultra or Blackboard Ultra. It's the new learning management system. And normally before I launch a course, I need to activate Microsoft Teams for my course. Because I've already done that in the automatic process. Thank you, Jill, for that. And type your experiences with Teams. If you really hate it, tell me that too, but tell me what you hate about it. But once that's the automated processes is active and complete, every student in the course gets access to that Microsoft Teams team. And so when I go into Microsoft Teams, I'm going to go and click Teams. And sometimes you need to hit Teams twice, but it gives me every team of which I'm a part. And there's my 812 game design for learning. Here's my PD1 Ultra. Incidentally, if you want to know how to use Ultra, I've got a course that I can, self-paced course you can be added to. I'm glad for you to look at that and utilize that. But now I'm in my team. So in my 8-week course, we had dozens of interactions. And I don't want to dwell on any one of them. Some of them were just silly. This was game designed for learning. And we talked a lot about things that weren't even covered in the course. And there was regular interaction in this course that went well above and beyond what most online asynchronous courses enjoy. And I think teams had a lot to do with it. It also, we have some students that are EKU employees. I think that didn't hurt, but we had people communicating this that were not EKU employees. So once you get that set up in an ultra course, it's automatic. You can have IT add students to a Microsoft Teams team and utilize it there. And there's the ability to add a class notebook and put grades and assignments in there. I didn't even touch any of that. I just used the asynchronous chat, and I found it very useful. Now I realize that if students think, oh, I'm going to text my teacher and get a 30-minute response, yeah, that's not helpful to you all, and that can be very stressful to people. But for me, it really works, and I enjoyed it. And also, let's celebrate. Let's take time in whatever way we can online to celebrate successes. A lot of people use the synchronous meeting. I know that we can synchronous meeting ourselves to death, but a kind word, a good announcement. If anybody, for example, if somebody in our department and my program got a job and they didn't mind me sharing that with the current course, I love doing that because it shows them that somebody that is a little further up the trail from them had a big success, and that's happened a couple times so far in our pretty young program. And so, any way we can communicate how good things are happening as a result of the work, I think is just very important. What are your thoughts? I'm going to stop this share here. What are your thoughts about this? What do you have to offer the group? I know that many of you have been doing online teaching a long time. So what's worth knowing relative to making that successful for yourself and engaging for your students? Jill, would you care to talk about using Microsoft Teams? Was that successful for you?
I certainly don't have as much experience with it as you have, and I've been much more comfortable doing synchronous Zoom meetings. That's just what I'm comfortable with. But I'm really interested in the asynchronous chat that you were just talking about. I have a small group of graduate students this semester in a class that I'm teaching. There's only 5 of them, and there's one that's teetering on the edge. I'm hoping to to talk her into staying in the class. She seems completely overwhelmed with everything going on in her life. But I had them in the first week of class ask questions privately to me that they had about the course or their readings, or their concerns about completing the assignments, blah blah blah. And one student said that they were concerned about how small the class was and that they really liked doing discussion with lots more people, and how were we going to make that work with so few people in the class. And on the one hand, I thought it was a little impertinent, but on the other hand, yeah, I agree. I wish there were more students in the class, but we have a small program, and this is what it is, and we're going to do the best that we can. So I'm wondering if you think that using that kind of asynchronous chat might be a way to fill out that space for a small class.
I do. The course, this 812 course I taught, I think had 9 or 10 students in it, and 4 were really super active, and I think 6 or 7 were fairly active with this chat. And this was a complete back channel situation. I didn't make any assignments through this chat, but realize that you could decide to. And I know that when we're talking about heavy discourse, we probably want to write longer sentences and probably have more more of an essay approach to some of our writing, but not necessarily so. I mean, I think probably you and I could brainstorm how to utilize that. But Once you get the team created, the Microsoft team created, and those student usernames imported as part of that team, then all they have to do is download Microsoft Teams on a device, on their computer, and then they just log in with their email, EKU email credentials, and they're in the team. And so they can start typing and communicating right away. Now, you could utilize some of those other features, like you could put course modules and have them build a shared document, a lot like I don't want to use the word wiki exactly, but a shared document that's pretty extensible within Teams, or you could use Word 365 or another program to manage that. But I just love using it, and most younger people are using these forms like Discord. Twitch has a kind of a chat feature as well, so they're used to that mode of communication, and so I think it would be very successful, unless you just have people who don't like that platform for whatever reason.
Yeah, I wonder if I could get the same kind of results from something like WhatsApp. I have colleagues in English who use WhatsApp with their undergraduates.
I think so. I think the challenge there, though, is administering that, like giving everybody. I don't know how you create groups in WhatsApp exactly. I've used it a little bit with some folks I know from Europe, but it's managing all that and then having the identity tracked to the actual student. It may take you a minute to figure out, oh, this phone number is this person. So I'm not sure. And EKU, the other caveat is EKU doesn't subscribe to that. So if something went off the rails or you had a support issue or whatever, I don't know if that's a huge concern, but it's not something we could, we don't have anybody we can call to help us fix that.
That's a good point.
But that's the only, like, I know an instructor who used Discord for his game design courses that were taught under computer science, and all the students know Discord very well. And so that was something he was willing to manage. He and I talked about it, and I said, look, this is, if you have a support problem, there's nothing we can do, but he was comfortable with that. And that was, his students liked it.
So thanks.
Thank you. Who has something to share? I don't mind not taking a whole hour. It's perfectly fine with me, because I think everybody's busy and has things to do. And I really appreciate you all attending. I'll just wait another minute to see if anybody has questions or something to share. Just remember, at the end of the presentation, there's the reference list. If you have any questions about any of those articles or concepts, can I help you apply those in any way? Just let me know. And I shared that link in the chat. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I thank you all for your time today. We have what we call PD1, both for Blackboard Original and Blackboard Ultra. Let me show those real quick. PD1 is a self-paced introduction to Blackboard. If you go to idc.eku.edu/PD1, you probably don't need it, but you may have a colleague or a facilitator or an adjunct teacher who may want to know more about Blackboard Original. We have PD1 Ultra Edition. You can go and sign up, or you can just send me an email. No problem. I'm glad to put anybody in there that wants to be in there. We also have, we're going to try to offer PD2, which is our course development, our online course development and online teaching certificate program. It's an 8-week intensive course. Lots of good information in there. It's very suitable for people who do not have a lot of experience in teaching online. We've had hundreds of faculty go through the course, and many tell us that they found a lot of good information. They did say it was a whole lot more work than what they anticipated, but that's the
I
only
took the
real.
course a couple years ago. It
And
is a
how'd you-
lot of work, but there is a lot of value to it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, there's no getting. It's like we give 60 or 70 quote PD credit hours for that. We have transcript that we can. In fact, if you wanted to see what the transcript looked like, if you go to this PD transcript, most of the things that you attend here in eCampus, I record, and in somewhat a timely manner, you can get a transcript of that. That's probably not as important for post-tenured folks as it is pre-tenured folks, but it gives a transcript of the things that you've done with us, the sessions that you've attended. And I think we give 60 hours of credit for that. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's just a lot of work, but there's a lot of good discussion, and ideas are exchanged, and we just believe there's a lot of value in it for people who might want that. And then also look for an announcement. February 7th, I'm going to have a really great international guest speaker talk with us. His name's Robert Cosma, and he's part of the educational media debate and education. And so he's going to talk about his new book and some of the ideas we can take away from that. So that I've just finalized that. He did it for free because we're broke, but he's trying to promote this book, and so we hope that it would be a good fit. And I'm really looking forward to that session too. So look for that as we move in the next couple of days. So if there's nothing else, I really, really appreciate your time and attention today. Let me know how I can help. Contact your instructional designer if you're part of eCampus. If not, the buck stops with me. I'm glad to help you with anything you've got going on in an online or hybrid course, or you just want to learn how to use a tool or technology and you don't seem to be getting anywhere. Let's figure it out, and let me help you. I get paid to do that, and I really enjoy it. So thank you so much for coming today, and I'll see you next time.